You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hi kids, it's time for another nifty edition of Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen.
And today we're talking about point-based gamification.
Well, we're talking about learning in general, right? We're talking about learning in general.
Yeah.
We're talking about the best ways for people to learn. We just did a podcast on how people don't feel their training is relevant to their future. They're bored. What was it? 36? Was it 36%? How many?
Yeah,
said was bored?
over a third said that it was boring.
No. What was that figure? Okay.
I don't know. Let's look it up, shall we?
Yeah. Oh, 46% employees found workplace
more
training
than that.
boring, and 30 said it was delivered in an engaging way.
They obviously didn't have us as trainers. Well,
Obviously.
me.
Very funny.
So yeah, I when we had Alex Suchman here from Barometer XP the other day, they like me are into play, and they use games for team bonding, things like that. That is not the same as gamification. She and I do not like the term gamification. It's cringeworthy to me because there are people who try to gamify things and it's not fun, and especially point-based, it becomes, to me, very extrinsically motivated, super competitive. I mean, you were in sales longer than
wait a second. You kind of cart before the horse. What is play versus gamification?
Well, play is an attitude. It's a way of getting people to come together for things that are fun, that and enjoyable, that people find commonalities, and it humanizes people, keeps them in the present moment. Where gamification is the making of a game for a learning or business type effort.
Right. So, in like video games, people play video games. So it would be gamification is that concept of let's make a video game about something they're going to learn. Like a video game about safety, or a video game about pushing the right buttons, or a video game about
or making towns, or things like that for learning how to run a business. What do you do? Do you buy? Do you rent? All those type of things. And it's another way. It's not linear. So in that sense, it can be good, and at the same time, it's not always fun.
So Attensi, that's an interesting name, Attensi. They're a player in this gamification, and they talk about how their gamification has the power to radically outperform traditional Indeed. These are some of the things from their website. They have a virtual training real-world impact, a 19% increase in productivity, 5 times faster to competence, 20 times return on the investment, 90% completion rate, 6 times the repetition rate, and 90% of the knowledge gap closure. So I don't know where they're getting these figures. I'm sure they've got something behind them. Here's the thing. Gamification can be just as boring. I mean, if
yes.
If it's moving too slow or it's focused on the wrong things, it can be bad as well.
Yeah. And to the point that
we're not going to mention her name on it.
No.
She's into gamification.
Can I finish my actual sentence?
No. Why would I let you do that?
This happens all the time. Gosh.
You have no idea. We've had to reshoot things because of her. It's just awful.
That's it.
I'm constantly saving her, literally.
Don't ask. So we found this little article that brings gamification to the next point of points-based, which I think is even worse. And this person happens to agree with me because it's extrinsic, which lasts. When people get extrinsic rewards, they last about 30 seconds. Where intrinsic, what makes you feel good about yourself and your accomplishments lasts longer, And it can make other people, to me, it makes other people feel bad.
You know, I don't know. I was always in sports, and they kept score, and and there were points and stats and baseball and all those things.
And yes, and that was a team effort, and that also, sports can be fun, and it wasn't points. They weren't. It's not points based gamification. It's a sport. So.
Well, think of this. Just go with me on this.
Okay.
All right. So sports, to people watching it, it's fun. They do well. They talk about this person did a good job or bad job. Now put yourself as the player. The player, if they're doing well, they're getting kudos, they're getting a lot of positive press. If they're not doing well, they're getting a lot of negative press.
Right.
So in a way, it's exactly what an employee is going through. If you're doing this game to learn how to do your job better, and you're not good at it, you're not going to feel good about yourself or what's going on in the process. So what the problem is I think they're trying to think that training is always going to be golden, and that training is always going to be enjoyable, and it's always going to be fun. And it's like Sesame Street. What was the comment? Somebody said Sesame Street ruined corporate training because we thought we should have fun learning instead of just doing the hard work and stuff.
See, and I think you can learn a lot. I mean, studies have shown that when employees are happier and having a good time, they learn better and they remember better, which is why gamification came out in the first place, because they thought that if they offered that information in a different way, in a game, quote unquote, that they may learn better. And I just don't think a lot of companies get it right.
So we've done a couple of quick podcasts on this. Just before this one, we were talking about training and employees, and we're talking about changing in body, in plastic surgery and stuff like that.
He's actually talking about two separate ones.
Well, yeah, different ones.
It's not training how to get plastic surgery.
Okay. Look, I'm trying to pull this all together as quickly as possible. So what I'm saying...
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's a focus. And what's happening is trainers think that they can create a reason for somebody to want to be in training. We do programs where we're contracted to do training for companies.
Yeah.
And some of the people that are there, you go, why are they even here? They're not paying attention. They're not working. They're going through the motions.
Right.
And I think this is a problem. This is what's coming up, and I think this is why people are terrified about the future. AI can get there with no motive. AI doesn't need motive. It just needs the programming to do a certain job. People think they have this external motivation. I mean, if you're there, I don't care how good the gamification, if you don't think it's going to be valuable for you, or you're frustrated because of your performance in it, there's no magic ticket to make it much more enjoyable. So really the thing we need to work on is that people need to feel that they're getting training for a specific reason. They need this. They need this to accomplish something. Like, for example, if you had to run across the plains to get away from the wolves that were chasing you, you'd probably practice on running pretty fast before you went out into the plain to run away from the wolves. And it's because your life depends on it. I think that's where we need to get to with business, not your life depends on it.
It was like, your life depends on this training. Well, and it might.
No, it should. And I think we're coming to the point where people are going to be able to choose to do the things that they like, and that, if you show competence in it, and you'll want to get better at it.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, I don't disagree. That's a double negative. I agree with you. And what I'm hearing from this, and that I wrote this down, purpose, not points. People need to have a purpose and believe in that purpose when they take a training. I want to get better because in order to do something that I really like, not I want to get better just because I need to make an extra, $200 a week, and I hate my job. It won't work. So
the problem, though, isn't the training. The problem is the communication going on, I believe. So the reason is if you have trained people on a new software package or a new procedure, if you haven't engaged those employees in that process, they feel like they're being just led around and they have no control of their life. And I think that's where training falls down, is that it's the entire communication process going on in organizations.
Okay. That's a good point. And it's way off from what we started from.
See, look, I think, what's the line, if all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail.
A nail, right.
And I think that's what's happening, is that you've got these people sounding out and they're not giving context to the subject matter. So, this person, she's writing an article that point system in gamification is bad. Mm-hmm. And so she's just talking about, she's not talking about the cause, right, or she's not talking about, she's just talking about an element.
A part of a process.
And she hasn't said, what is the real reason? It's not that gamification's failing. It's the fact that somebody doesn't see a reason for it, or isn't connected to it.
Okay.
And so
that brought it back.
I think if we look at things, with a broader scope, and that's something humans can do, and you keep talking about what AI can't do, now it won't be human. I think it's going to be human. I do think that the idea of context and our ability to grab context from a bunch of different areas, mm-hmm, that are relevant to it, I think that's going to be very difficult for AI for quite a while.
Okay.
I think that's pure maybe it's creativity in terms of problem solving.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so and she does bring up just a small part about the gamification, and that can be, unless I am, you were an athlete, I'm an athlete, and I will always push to be a little bit better at whatever I do for myself, and that's an intrinsic reward, which goes along with that purpose. And people think differently. Everybody's got a different personality, whatever. And another problem that I have with this is that it kind of lumps everyone together. And I think this can be a very impersonal way to give people, credit for whatever game. Sorry, it must have been the 4 shots of vodka that I had.
Yeah, exactly.
Needing to deal with you in this. And, I think a lot of times gamification can separate people instead of bonding them together. And there are ways that, it's like we play a group, it's called The World's Greatest Fan. It's basically rock, paper, scissors. Okay. So if people lose, it's rock, paper, scissors. It's still play, and then the object is to be the world's greatest fan until you have a whole bunch of people rooting for just 2 people. And it's fun, and that's a form of play, and it is also a game.
Right.
Nobody gets points, nobody gets, and it's a way of bonding people. You lost, I lost, let's cheer her out, Whereas this, it's because it's for learning and upskilling, whatever, it can be a little more competitive. And I think that can separate people a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, sounds pretty good. I really haven't got a comment on that. I mean, it makes sense on...
Yeah.
Gamification, again, all these different elements can't have elements that they have things within them that work and things within them that don't work.
Yes. Yeah.
Like here, they're saying games trigger more parts of the brain than any other media. Repetition improves knowledge acquisition and retention. Learning by doing is the most effective way of learning. Well,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's nothing.
If you want to learn.
Right.
If you want to, and if you feel
thing,
it's important.
Right. And people have to, or, managers, whoever is doing it, even us as consultants and facilitators and workshops and, all that, we have to make sure that everyone is there for, when I go in, I'm like, all right, how many people want to be here? How many people here were voluntold that they had to be in there? And I get a couple. And I was like, okay, I will try to make this as fun as possible, knowing where you guys are coming from. And we talk about it a little bit. So I know what I'm dealing with. And a lot of managers and people don't.
Right. When was the last time you picked up your golf clubs?
What, two 2 years ago.
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. We were in it, going every weekend, going and golfing, working on it.
Not so much now.
No, and then we stopped. And I think that's a lesson with human beings. I mean, part of it was frustration. We weren't getting any better. Part of it was repetitive injury.
Yes.
Things like that. And so those are the things that interfere. And I think jobs are going to be the same way.
Yeah.
Some people can do a job for a while, a certain point, and then they get overwhelmed, or they get tired of it, or they get bored with it, and they go on and do something else. And I think that's the workforce.
Let's go play something else. I don't want to play this anymore.
No, and I think that's what the world is coming to, where that ultimately, and companies that start thinking that way, how do I get people in that can do the job real intensely, while somebody else gets tired of it? It's almost like if you're trying to haul a big rock up a cliff, and somebody's pulling on the rope, well, after a while they get tired. So you get somebody new on the rope, and they start pulling up for a while, and they're going, and everybody could be shouting for them, and then somebody else gets on it, and they get pulling it up.
Do you remember, I don't know if it was Henry Ford who did this with the assembly line. He would then change people, like they would do one job for a week, and then they would do another job for a week. And I think that's a brilliant thing to do. So everyone gets skilled in a lot of areas.
Correct.
They can substitute, and they don't get bored because they're doing something different.
Correct, because you're moving them around. Yeah. And I think that companies need to do that, and that's part of the learning that's
the
going
upskilling,
on.
absolutely.
Yeah, and so many people, like, for example, somebody comes to a leadership class, and they haven't had an opportunity to be a leader. They don't know what the problems are.
Personal space.
Sorry. Here, give. Sorry, I'm crowding your camera space. There are my hands. There. Hi.
As we go, look, shadow people. Okay. Anyway.
So so I think that this article she wrote is about a specific subject, and I think that, like many of the articles,
it's like a microcosm of what we've been talking about.
And there's an underlying problem, and we're not dealing with the underlying problem, and that's part of what we're trying to get to.
It's like Western medicine, dealing with a lot of symptoms, but not the cause.
There you go. I think that's great. I think it's a great place to end. We'll pick this up on another podcast.
On Western versus Eastern medicine. No. Yeah. Okay. That's
you think
it.
That?
Yeah. I think this is, and I would love to hear what you guys think. Have you had gamification thrown at you, whether you want it or not? And, play versus games versus gamification. And there are subtle differences, and they can mean a lot.
Yes, they can.
So that's our story. We're sticking to it. Oh, you know what? I've forgotten to ask this the last couple of podcasts. So I'm doing it now. If you like what we're talking about, what we're doing, who we're interviewing, what direction this is going in, please like, subscribe, tell all your friends. And if you want us to talk about something specific, or if you don't agree with us, let us know in the comments, and we will take that up. Okay?
Well, take it up to heaven with us.
And we will just ignore it. No, I'm kidding. We will never ignore you.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye, Rona. Thank you for being with us. This has been Biz-Souls. You just heard who I am.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
See you later.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.